it. Lick it. Lick it. Let me lick your pretty piggy cunt.
Hello and welcome to Just Another Horror Podcast, the podcast where three men drink beers and gripe about horror movies.
The laughter and the joy.
Listen, you pervert, why don't you go over to Lamb-Kai? They could use a little of this.
I'll tell you of a little boy who lives across the way.
Just so everyone's aware, there will be spoilers and plenty of nasty, nasty language.
The day, he's the little boy that Santa Claus forgot.
Oh, why don't you go find a wall socket and stick your tongue in it? That'll give you a charge.
I'll stick my tongue up your pretty pussy.
Want a lot.
As if I didn't feel like enough of a pussy already.
I watched a top 10 least scariest movies, and Jaws the Revenge was on there.
When I was a kid, Jaws the Revenge scared me, but it was because the shark didn't look like any animal on Earth. Did you watch the second one at all, ever? Have you ever seen it?
Once when it first came out, when I lived at the stoop, and then it got stolen.
Who the fuck would steal Black Christmas?
Don't ask me. I paid $19.96 for that when it first came out, the remake.
Oh, I've made some choices like that. You were the one that told me you bought all those Friday the 13th, and then the box set came out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every one I think I spent
God.
$14.99 for.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Just Another Horror Podcast. Wes isn't here. He eats green berets for breakfast, and right now he's very hungry. Didn't he say he was getting his eyebrows waxed?
I think so.
Yeah, that's what it was.
A little manscaping done.
Uh-huh. So, we're doing a kind of a special edition thing here. Black Christmas from 1974. A lot of good actors in this. John Saxon.
He's a cop.
Margaret Kidder. A hot, disheveled hooker type.
Yeah, she's really slutty, to say the least, in this movie. And hussy. Olivia.
Good old Hussey.
Hussey.
Not since the days of It have we been graced with Hussey's presence. And she looks exactly the same 16 years earlier.
She looked exactly the same in Romeo and Juliet, that are like the
She does not
one
age.
from the, maybe it was 60s? It might have been 70s.
She is the ageless wonder. And I think that's the only three that I know in this movie. Everybody else is, I don't know who they are.
I got a couple
matter.
questions on who some people might be in this movie.
Oh, well, if you've seen if I know what you're talking about, and if you've seen the remake, you'd rather just not know who they are. It's just, they decide they're going to answer it in the most asinine way possible. But we'll get kicked off here. This movie was directed by Bob Clark. You know.
How many good Christmas movies does this guy have?
This movie doesn't have a lot to do with Christmas. It's kind of a throwaway, almost. Other than the carolers, that's kind of the important part. Other than that...
And the Christmas music.
Yeah, which, as I discussed earlier, pissed my wife off immediately. As soon as she heard I was listening to a Christmas movie, she was like, "What the fuck?" It's basically a movie about a guy who's calling people on the phone at this sorority house and just being vulgar as shit.
He says some pretty good things.
He's talking in two voices. I don't know how.
No.
He just drops a lot of C-bombs.
You can say it. He says cunt.
Cunt, 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 cunt. He
and
just keeps saying
pussy
it.
and his big fat cock, I think, at one point.
Oh, yeah, it's like listening to, I don't know, the only time I've ever heard words like that is in porn. I mean, but then Margaret Kidder is just firing right back. Which, right away, I love this character.
So good.
Yeah. That's kind of how the movie starts. They get a phone call from somebody, and they're like, whatever, fuck you. And this one girl gets really offended by it and decides to go pack her bags and leave. Get picked up by her dad.
I think her dad was coming to pick her up the next morning.
Yeah.
That's about it. She has a boyfriend. Let's get some character names here. I have them wrote down.
I know Jess and Peter. That's the only two I know. And something.
Barb is Kidder.
Mrs.
Mac
is the
old drunk house.
Yeah, she's the drunk house lady.
When you're in a sorority, I don't know, but the mothers, aren't they just a few years older normally than the pledges?
Not
and
in
the house?
these movies. Remember?
She looked like Mrs. Garrett from The Facts of Life. She's like 70.
Do you remember House? Was it House on Sorority Row, or is that what it was? one of the earlier movies where there was like a mom or a house mother that came in, they killed her and they threw her in the pool, and they had
I
a
don't
party.
remember that.
Yeah, she was like 90 and she came in and yelled at them for drinking, so they killed her, threw her in the pool, and had the party anyway. But it seems like any movie with sorority house from the 70s and 80s, the mothers are in their 90s.
Yeah, the girl that dies, I have her named Claire.
Yeah, Claire is...
The first victim, we should say.
Yeah.
She's the one going home to meet her dad.
Don't we get his last name? Because that's what we have to refer to him as, Mr. something. Higgins?
Is it Higgins?
I don't know. Is it Higgins?
We shouldn't even get to that part yet. He doesn't come for a few
He's a weird
scenes.
looking guy.
He's
There's
a weird
one
guy.
woman in this sorority house that looks like a female version of Egon from Ghostbusters. I kept thinking it was Egon.
Phil.
Yeah, that's it, Phil.
And she's tied in with the other one. She is the house mom in the remake.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that.
I watched 5 minutes of that, and she was a drunk. So they're just following it, like, verbatim, I guess. So Claire goes upstairs, starts to get ready to go, hears something in the closet.
Some meowing.
Yeah, cat meowing?
Cat meowing.
Yeah.
And there's Claude is the cat of the house. And everyone's looking for Claude. Is
The
this
whole
guy,
movie!
Is this guy
Everybody's looking
meowing?
for Claude.
Is this guy meowing?
I don't know if he's faking it or making the cat work with him. I don't know what's going on with this
I
cat.
have no idea either. But she's like, who is that? Well, someone's meowing. It's probably your fucking cat, you
And several times in this movie, they're like, what's the name of the cat again?
Claude.
They're like, Claude! As if the cat's gonna be like, yeah, what do you need?
Yeah, I'm here. In the closet.
So she walks over to the closet, turns around, and the killer wraps her head with a plastic bag and suffocates her. So 2 weeks in a row, we get a bag suffocation.
I still have a lot of questions on things that go on in this movie.
Tons. I don't know what...
So this guy just snuck upstairs.
It's like the whole thing's a red herring. Yeah, he climbs up the side of the building and goes into the attic.
And that's all we know.
Again, though, I'm the sequel answers... Or the sequel. I want to call it the sequel, but the remake answers every question. They, like... It's almost like you made it. Only I don't think you would have come up with something so convoluted. It's bad.
Now listen, I was listening to the podcast last week, and I got to bring up something. You said the best part about Jaws is the lack of Jaws.
Supposedly.
But you still get to see Jaws. You know it's a shark doing the killing. With the
Yeah.
Blair Witch, we don't get that.
What are you going back to the Blair Witch
We get
right in
nothing.
the middle of this?
Yes,
Oh my
I am.
God.
Because the lack of Jaws, you said, is comparable to Blair Witch, where I said it was comparable to Open Water. Where in Open Water, you don't know what's doing the killing underneath the water.
They show you sharks eventually, though, in that movie.
They show
And
you
I'm
them
not going to
circling
give
around.
Open Water any merit whatsoever, so...
It doesn't deserve any merit.
No.
Just like Blair Witch. Merry Christmas and a happy holidays.
This is bullshit. I shouldn't have to come back here unarmed and defend Blair Witch.
Alright, I'm done with that.
This movie doesn't... It almost has the same problem, because it gives you red herrings on who the killer is. And we'll get there, but I don't know what it wants you to think is going on.
I have no idea what's going on.
I don't either. I know people are dying. That's all I know. But it's not necessarily a bad thing with this movie. I'll get right to it. I think this movie is very good. Very good.
I think it's good up until a certain point, and then it just leaves everything unexplained.
Which isn't necessarily bad, because I think Halloween did a good job of making the killer still out there, and then they just fucked it up by making 8 movies about the killer. So Claire's dad shows up to pick her up and take her somewhere, and nobody knows where Claire is.
This is one of the better scenes in the movie, where he comes into the house and meets Mrs. Mack, who is a drunk. And there's all these posters on the wall with, like, naked things, and this guy's
old
like
lady
this...
flipping off
Yeah,
people.
this guy's like this straight-laced guy. He's like, I didn't have my daughter come to college here to be partying and playing around with boys. And
Well,
the
your
lady...
daughter's going to college, so
Yeah.
oh well.
So the lady is walking away and getting ready, and she makes the best statement of the whole movie. She says, these broads would hump the Leaning Tower of Pisa if they could get up there. She is the mother of sluts.
Yeah,
Basically.
she also hides liquor in Bibles and in a toilet attached
That's
to a
so
chain.
gross.
Oh my goodness. She's a lot of fun though. This movie straddles the line of comedy and horror.
It
It's
could be a
very
dark comedy.
close, yeah.
And you just don't know because Bob Clark directed it, and A Christmas Story, which is kind
I think
of the
he's a
same
good director. I do. I don't know how many other movies
I'm not
he's
a
done.
huge fan of A Christmas Story.
No, but I do know that he did a good job with it. I just don't. It's not my cup of tea. But when I was 10, I liked it, and then they played it
24 hours on
24 hours a
TBS
day,
every day.
yeah.
Ooh. Frequent phone calls still happening in the house.
There's a lot of like side stories going on in this movie. For instance, like Jess is a girl who's pregnant. That's Olivia Hussey. She's pregnant with Peter's kid. Peter is a whack job.
He is completely insane.
Yeah. He's a piano player.
Yeah, they think
Yeah.
she shagged up with Claire's boyfriend, so Jess goes and sees him. He's
At
playing
hockey
hockey practice.
And that's the weird thing. Like, I'm a huge
His name
hockey
is
fan.
Chris. We'll
All
call
right.
him.
I'm gonna call him Patrick Waugh. He's a goaltender. So Patrick Waugh. Yeah. The thing is, I love hockey, and when I first saw the first shot of him at hockey practice in that mask, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
That mask was.
I had no idea. Like, I
Wow.
know masks were different in the 70s, but fuck, man. So he tells her that people think she might be with him, and he's like, no, I haven't seen her. So that's when they go to the cops.
Yeah.
And they meet the incomparable, the other cop's name.
No, I didn't write it down. Can we call him Doofy?
That's what I call every cop, Doofy. It's another incompetent cop in the long list of incompetent cops. They tell him what's going on, and then Margaret Kidder's character is like, she gives him the
Her
phone
name's
number.
Barb.
Barb.
By the way.
Yeah, Barb gives him the phone number, which is like fellatio 6889 or something, and he's like, fellatio. How do you spell that?
What an idiot.
Yeah. And he thinks that's some sort of exchange or something. There's
F-E?
no idea.
What, it was something with F-E.
Yeah, that's the exchange, F-E. He's like, oh, okay. And he writes it down. So, he's an idiot.
Meanwhile, we get shots of said killer rocking this dead girl in a rocking chair in the attic.
What's he call her?
Agnes?
Agnes, that's it. He refers to himself as Billy.
Yeah, Billy and Agnes. You hear that on the phone sometimes, too.
Yeah, and that...
Buncha.
I'll tell you what all of this is at the end. What Billy and Agnes and why he's even at that house. What all that is. I'll tell you what it is. It's not in this movie. It's in the remake.
Can I guess, and then
Oh, yeah.
you tell me what's real?
Yeah.
All right.
Why don't you just do that right now? You know what? Fuck it. We don't need to wait. Just tell me.
I just assumed that Agnes is Billy's mother, and he was abused, and for some reason he's off killing women.
Maybe you did make the remake. That's it. Well, that house is where it was done to him in.
Okay.
His mother abused him
Sexually. Ooh.
Yeah, and they decide they need to put that in that movie, and then
Incest doesn't work.
so he goes back to that house. It's
Let's go
so out
in.
of place.
Let's talk about some of the worst movies that have incest.
Amityville 2.
That's where I was going. That's exactly where I was going. What a
So
horrible
dumb.
movie. The only good thing about it has Burt Young in it.
Yeah, beating people, beating his wife, beating everybody.
He didn't give a fuck. Smack a bitch.
There's more calls, and then we meet John Saxon, who overhears them talking to Doofy, and he gets interested because there's apparently a girl missing too that he's looking for, a little girl
Yeah.
missing, and he's like, wait a minute, are you telling me that like there's prank phone calls at the same house that someone's missing at, and you didn't put those two things together? And he's like, well, no. Why? What do they say to him? You wouldn't know how to pick your nose if you didn't have written instructions or
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, I was laughing
John
so
Saxon
hard.
gives it to him pretty hard
Oh
in the
my
movie.
goodness. John Saxon just made me laugh and laugh.
Yeah, it's a nice different take on him being serious but funny, where in like Nightmare on Elm Street he's just
Serious.
serious and nothing else. Because I like this side of John Saxon.
Oh, yeah.
Cracking jokes and shit.
Yep.
That's good stuff.
This movie is the first movie I ever rented on Netflix, and I fast-forwarded through a lot of it because it seemed boring at the time. This is only the second time I've watched it, but I stopped every time John Saxon was on screen. I wanted to know what he was saying, and it always made me laugh.
There are some slow parts. Now we should touch
It's a
on
little
that.
long, yeah.
Jess does not want this baby
No.
with Peter, and Peter wants it, and he cries to her, and he's like,
He also smashes a piano, which
because his recital didn't go so well.
in the end ends up being an extremely ridiculous red herring that there's no need for that scene if he's not the killer. They would put it in there to tell you flat out this guy is a killer, but he's not the killer. So what the fuck is the point of that scene?
To make us think.
But then, like...
But if the remake never came out, we'd never know why Billy was in this house, right?
Right, but we would still know that Peter wasn't the killer.
That's what we would know, and then we'd have nothing. We'd have no Billy's in the attic.
It's a little frustrating.
That's what I'm saying.
So there's a bunch of people out in the town looking for the kid, and while that's going on, that's when Peter's whining about the baby. He says something like, "You want to kill our kid like you're removing a wart," and Jess is like, "What the fuck, man?
Yeah, that's
you're out of your mind." She's like, "I don't want to marry you because I'm doing shit in college right now," and he just won't have it. So then he leaves like a baby. He's like,
yeah, Peter's name should be Dick, because he is just a dick in this movie. He's rude. And there's no wonder that this girl doesn't want to marry him, or even... And there's a part earlier where he should have had the clue, because he calls her and says, "I love you," and she goes, "I know. I'll see you tomorrow."
All right, Harrison Ford, all right.
Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't even get an "I love you" back. "I know. You love me." Get the clue, buddy. You're a fucking loser. You play piano. That's probably why. Who would want to be with someone that plays the fucking piano?
I don't know.
Nobody.
Okay, thank you. Clears that up.
Let's get that out of the way.
So they find the little girl's body. I feel like Chief Brody right now. I'm just like... And then
in the park.
Barb goes to bed. They talk to...
John Saxon, yeah.
Yeah. They talk to him, and they get him to bug the phone. And they find out there's 2 phones in the house, and right away there's the answer to the movie. If you're paying attention, you know what's going on now.
Let me ask you this. Is that possible? Did they have 2 different
phone lines? Yeah, they specifically said they had 2 phone lines. Where it's impossible is that dumbass movie where the babysitter gets a phone call, and it's coming from inside the house.
When a stranger calls.
When a stranger calls.
Yeah.
It was made in the 60s, and they're like, the phone call's coming from inside. That's impossible.
Was it in the 60s? Or you sure it
was
in the
60s or 70s? Either way, unless there were 2 lines in the house, which they never said there was, like this movie did, it couldn't have happened that way.
Okay, so this guy's calling from Mrs. Mack's phone.
Right.
But he's in the attic for most of the movie. How is he making...
He comes downstairs and goes back up. He comes down a lot. He comes down a lot in the movie. Comes down to kill Barb.
Yeah, he stabs her with a... Is that a unicorn horn?
Yeah.
Ice glass sculpture? What is that? Like
It's
just
a
a little...
unicorn horn, yeah. It's really the only, like, slasher type kill of the movie. Oh, Mrs. Mack. She dies, too.
Yeah, she stumbles out. Okay, here's my question, too. They've got the telephone's bugged, but they don't even search the house. They search Claire's room, but that's it.
Several times, even at the end of the movie, they're like, should we check the attic? No.
No.
Stay away from the attic.
Don't go up there. It could be Pinhead. Not Pinhead. Who's his brother? Frank.
Pinhead's brother is Frank? Sure. Okay, Pinhead's brother
Larry's
is Frank.
brother's Frank.
Okay. Yeah, they don't go in the attic. They don't check anything. They just take the word for it that nobody uses that phone. But obviously somebody's using it because that's where the phone calls are coming from. And I'll tell you what, kids watching this movie nowadays are not only confused by the rotodials, but I'm sure very confused by them trying to trace the call. They're like, what is that place? It's a big room with all kinds of like...
I love it too.
Oh my goodness.
Back then, you had to have them on the phone for a 3-minute conversation because every time it's like, they weren't on there long enough. We couldn't trace it. Of course you couldn't.
How do you keep a prank caller on the line?
Yeah. Tell me more pranks, please.
Yeah, please tell me more about my pussy.
Oh my goodness. Good though. It had funny parts all through the movie.
The cops were the funniest parts, but that lady who ran the house was funny. Peter was accidentally funny. Barb was hilarious every time she ripped into people.
We forgot to talk about Barb talking to Claire's dad. There's one scene where Barb is trashed.
Yeah, her eyes are drooping.
She talks to the dad, and she says something about, there's a type of sea turtle that can fuck for 3 days long or something. And she went to SeaWorld to watch it, but she got bored, and then she watched the zebras fuck because they only fuck for 3 seconds or something. And everyone made her go to bed, and that's when she got killed.
I bet Bob Clark was he felt handcuffed when he had to write lines like, you shoot your eye out, kid, and couldn't write lines like, zebras fuck for 3 seconds. The lady who runs the house, she gets a hook in the neck, pulled up into the
Why
attic.
would that be in the attic?
I was confused as to how the physics of that worked at all.
He just pulled that cord and it went
He
like...
let it go, and it pulled her up. It made no sense. And, like, if it got her under the neck, she wouldn't still be like, ah! I think she'd be pretty
Maybe
quiet.
it just hooked her right in the chin perfectly.
I guess. I don't know. But she's dead, and then later on, Barb has an asthma attack. And
Having a dream she
has
was
a
getting
dream
killed.
she was about to be killed, but that's all good and well, because she's dead now.
Yeah.
She gets stabbed by a glass unicorn. They do it in glorious slow motion.
This is the second time we've seen a unicorn kill somebody.
Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the
Got it.
Woods!
All right, it took me a minute.
Oh, we had a goonicorn kill somebody.
What was that?
In VHS 2, that goonicorn.
Oh, yeah.
That might be the third unicorn killing, technically.
This reminded me, you were talking about Jaws the Revenge. This reminded me of Jaws the Revenge. I think they must have stolen it from this movie. The kids outside singing Christmas carols while somebody's being killed distracts everybody from the person being killed. Now Barb's dead, and she starts getting phone calls again from the killer.
And he starts talking about... He keeps saying Billy and Agnes. And you're wondering, alright, Billy and Agnes, something's going on here. But we don't know.
Isn't.
But there
really,
yeah.
there isn't.
We don't know.
He calls, and then he says something about the wart. And they have their phone tapped at this point. So he says something about the baby being removed like a wart, which is a conversation that Peter and Hussey had alone.
Jess.
So that makes her think that it's Peter. But this guy's been in the house the entire time.
Yeah.
So...
Now, Phil's still alive. We haven't really mentioned her.
She doesn't do a lot.
She doesn't do hardly anything.
She just walks around looking like Egon Spengler. So...
Which is not good for a girl.
No! And she takes her glasses off and she just looks worse. They figure out that the call's coming from inside the house after Peter calls, and they talk to Hussey about the baby, and they think it might be Peter. They find the smashed piano because they want to check up on Peter. She decides it can't be Peter because he was sleeping in the house. Which, again, that's creepy, too. Why is he in the house sleeping without telling anybody?
How did he get into the house?
I don't know. How did he get in?
I have Peter is a giant dick. Just wrote in my notes.
I think that would happen a long time ago, but it doesn't matter. Like, just everything about this movie is just throwing at you that Peter is the killer. It's just like launching it at you. They get the call again. They trace it, and it's coming from inside the house. They get the address for where it's coming from. They're like, no, that's where the phone call's going to. He's like, no, it's coming from there. So John Saxon calls Doofy and tells him, call Jess, tell her to get out of the house. Do not tell her the killer's in the house. So what's like the very first thing he does? He's like, killer's in the house. You're ripping through your notes trying to find where I am.
Phil went into Barb's room to check on her.
And disappeared. Yeah, there was like,
yeah, Billy and Agnes again.
Yeah.
This guy. Again, I have part two. Claude, we get a picture of Claude licking
the dead body.
The dead body in
Is
the rocking
Claude the
chair.
killer? Is it like a cat man?
Oh my god, it's a cat killer.
Wow.
Wow. That is wow.
Is Agnes its cat partner?
Who knows?
Ugh.
Well, that's one theory.
That's a theory that's never been put forward. That's a Just Another Horror Podcast exclusive.
I got a question. There is a cop named Jennings who's sitting outside of the house.
Gets his throat slit.
Gets his throat slashed! When did this guy leave the house and go kill that guy?
Yeah, did he go outside? And if he did...
He had to!
If he did, this guy's only job, is to watch the house.
How do you not see him?
Ugh. I don't know.
How? I just want to know.
The only thing I can think is that the guy was already out of the house.
But he was in the house making phone calls the whole time.
He was!
The whole time!
What
Killing
the fuck?
Barb. He killed Barb. He killed Phil.
Oh, I did not
He
catch
made at least
this.
3 phone
Just
calls.
now.
And this guy outside the house is dead.
No, he's got Jason Voorhees-like powers. Since this set templates for a lot of slasher movies, maybe that's a template that it set. Killer can move all over the place and never be seen.
Now this guy transported.
Oh, he definitely did. He had to have. Unless, like, maybe he's working, another theory, he's working with another guy, and they're taking, shifts.
Maybe it's Agnes.
Agnes and Billy are taking shifts on this, and one was coming back, killed Jennings, took the other guy's place.
That's my biggest beef with this. How the outside cop got his throat slashed while this guy was...
That's just convenience. It's the only thing I can think.
Day, yeah. Come on, Bob Clark. Give me something.
There's not a lot of flaws in this, but that's a big one. You're right.
That is a big one.
Doofy tells Jess that the killer's in the house, even though he was specifically told not to do that. So Jess grabs a fire poker and goes and looks for...
No, why would you do that?
I don't know.
Why wouldn't you just get out of the house? You know someone's up there. You're going to go fight this guy off?
If you yell out their names, your friends' names, and they don't answer, then you yell the following. Just so you know, there's a killer in here if you can hear me, so get out. Goodbye. But no, she's going to go take matters into her own hands.
And a fire poker. That's not a very good weapon.
No, you got to hope that the killer gets near you.
And
that's it.
It's not sharp either. A fire poker is not sharp.
I saw Friday the 13th 3. That shit goes right through you. No problem.
That's different if Jason's got the end of it. He's got the strength of 8 men.
1,000-mile-an-hour backswing.
But a fire poker is not sharp. It would take some work to get it through your body.
And Olivia Hussey's not exactly strong.
Your best bet is to whack them upside the head or try to stab them in the eye, I would say.
Again, that tells me that was convenience too. They're like, well, why does she have the fire poker in the basement? Oh, because she carried it upstairs with her.
Another thing that I thought was, why not? These two doofy guys show up with rifles that are in the search party, and they're like, there was a dead girl in the park. We're just making sure everyone's okay.
Yeah. We just got on the bar.
God, you son of a bitch, you shot Ted Hollister. They show up at the door, and they treat these guys like redneck idiots. And they send them on their way.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you... Hey, come in and check my house.
Because they might be the
Sensible.
killer.
Because they might be the killer?
You ever see Weekend at Bernie's? Everyone who comes to the house is the killer.
I love Weekend at Bernie's. And I love Weekend at Bernie's, too.
She goes into the one bedroom, and finds Barb and Phil's bodies all messed up. And there's like a guy whose giant eyeballs sticking out. I don't know what they are.
Are they together? Like, what? You see both their heads, right?
Hey.
So, it kind of reminded me of the fish boy from House of a Thousand Corpses. There was like
you gotta remember, Agnes and Billy, okay?
Exactly.
Very important.
Oh, Agnes and Billy.
It's
so
just,
when
I saw those bodies, it brought me
that
back to that.
Some of these phone calls are this guy killing these people when Jess is listening to him. And he's yelling at Agnes and Billy, and I think he was killing Phil in the one scene when he called Jess.
I keep thinking he's killing somebody. It sounds like it. But it never shows anything like that.
It never says anything like that.
Well, he's in the closet, and he says, like, Agnes! And comes crashing out of there, and grabs Hussey's hair if she gets away, locks the basement door. He's banging away on it, and then he just goes away.
And then Peter...
just creeps everybody out.
He's right outside the house in this window where she's in the basement.
Assumes that she's down there, assumes that she's somehow in trouble, feels the need to smash the glass to get in. What if she's just down there doing laundry and can't hear him or something?
Yeah.
Why smash the glass? So he comes down there, he's like, oh, are you okay? What's the matter with you? Just like creeping up on her like you would a cat if it was cornered in a room.
It pans away from them.
You hear screaming.
And a cop comes in the house. And all we see is Jess and Peter kind of dead looking, laying with each other.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, it just occurred to me. It didn't occur to me till now. I thought for sure 100% that Jess killed Peter.
I did too, but it
now that
it
I'm
could have
thinking
been the
about
killer.
it, the killer could have done it, and then they blamed it on Jess. Right, because they think that Peter was the killer anyway, so they were like, oh, well, she killed him.
Yeah, she killed Peter.
Okay, well, they find her and him down there, and she wakes up a little bit, so they give her some drugs and put her asleep. And everybody just leaves the house. They all leave.
All leave.
Nobody is there with her. And the killer comes downstairs, going on and on about Agnes and Billy again. Then it kind of just goes to credits, and you hear phones ringing, which, that's dumb.
Yeah, and that's it.
He didn't come downstairs to make calls to a house he knows is empty. It doesn't make any sense. So, that's the end. That's Black Christmas.
So there's a lot of things that I have questions about. Who Billy was and who Agnes were, but you told me that was their house that they lived at, and Agnes had sex with her son or whatever she
I
did.
guess, yeah.
So, knowing that incest was in this, I'm going to give this movie a 5 out of 10.
But it wasn't. It
It
wasn't
wasn't
in this movie.
one. But Billy, I don't know, at the end of the movie, I don't know what is going on. I know Billy is the killer, and Agnes is, well, I guess they're right,
Somebody.
actually, that his mother was me. I don't know that she had sex with him, but I thought she was maybe abusive or something, and that's why he was
I wasn't
killing.
sure if it was a brother and sister until I looked this stuff up. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know if it was like a
So, yeah, it really doesn't
friend.
tell you
I
anything.
don't know.
You know at the end of the movie that Peter is not the killer,
Mhm.
and you're just left with, okay, Billy's in this house. Who's Agnes? Who's Billy? Why is he killing these people that are in this house? They seem like just a skanky sorority. Why is he doing this? So, but the movie, there were funny parts of it. I gave it a 5 out of 10. I didn't like it as much as Silent Night, Deadly Night, but that's a slasher, and I like slashers better, so.
No, supposedly this is the first slasher.
What was
Even though-
slashy about? Maybe Barb, but you don't see a whole lot.
Yeah,
You
there's
see-
not a lot
You
of.
see a little bit of blood on the unicorn.
I think it started a couple templates. I think it started the POV camera because there's a lot of that.
There is a lot of first-person thing going
I
on.
will say there's a lot of good things about this movie. The way it was shot, the way they used shadows was amazing. It kept people out of view a lot, which gave you the problem of not knowing for a while if it was Peter or not because they looked similar in the shadows.
Also, I also like when the crowd was going to look for whatever was out there, and they find the girl. When they showed the outdoors, it felt cold. You
Yeah.
could see their breath breathing. It
Well, this
felt
guy's
like
a-
December.
This guy's a December expert, Bob
So-
Clark, so he knows how to film a cold scene.
At least he got that right. Because sometimes you watch movies and it's just, you
Yeah.
know, it doesn't.
you
match
knew they
up.
weren't on a set.
Yeah.
It felt like they were in a town. I think the acting was very good. I don't think there was any bad acting in this movie.
I wish I could have seen Billy, but yeah,
Yeah. As far as horror goes, it's a very early effort, so I'm not going to be too critical on it. It's not like they had a lot at their disposal. I think it was a pretty decent movie. Good directing, good acting. The only problems I had were things I didn't think about until now, really. Actually, when I was driving in here, I was so high on the movie. I thought it was so good. And I was ready to give the thing an 8, but now that we've picked it apart, I'm going to drop it down to a 6.
Yeah,
I'm
that
gonna
cop's
drop
throat
two
getting
parts
slashed.
down
So there's
because-
a couple of things that just don't make sense.
Yeah, as good as it is, I think another watch would kind of temper me a little bit. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. But that's not a bad score. I liked it better than Silent Night, Deadly Night. Any of them.
Did you?
I did. I thought this. I think I could watch this again. I think it was good.
Silent Night, Deadly Night has Linnea Quigley getting put on a deer.
Well, if I'm gonna pick part 2 if I'm gonna watch those because it has all of part 1 and
Yeah, it
some
does.
awesome shit going on.
And Garbage Day.
And Garbage
Can you throw
Day.
Garbage Day in this, please?
Of course, it's Christmas. We have to
Yes,
throw Garbage
and
Day
yes.
in there.
Garbage Day!
Eric Freeman, you are a legend in our
Because
minds.
part 1 was so bland and well, remember part 3 if you can.
Oh my god.
Bill
Can there be a
Moseley.
slower movie out there?
That's the one I gave a 0 to. I haven't watched it since, and I never will.
Can there be a slower movie? A
No.
slower horror movie that nothing happens?
Yes. Actually, I'm going to talk about that right
What,
now.
Blair
We're,
Witch?
we're just going to bullshit here for a minute. No, not Blair Witch. God damn it. Have you ever went to a horror movie, like, excited about it at an actual theater and been actually pissed off when you left? Can you think of one?
I never get too excited just because...
Not too excited, just like looking forward to it a little bit. Let's just say a little bit, because when you leave this theater, you're angry. Or
How
at the very least, like, extremely disappointed.
I don't think so. I normally have good or really bad experiences.
Well, what's a really bad one?
The Boogeyman one, where there were
Okay.
all
yeah.
those teenage kids there, and they had to fucking stop the movie and turn the lights on and tell these kids to stop fucking
Holy
talking.
shit.
Yeah.
I didn't know that
And
was...
the Boogeyman remake in the movie was awful, so
Oh,
it
yeah.
made it even worse. I had to sit through that.
Now, what do you remember from that movie? I know there's, like, one part.
A bird flying into a
Yes,
window.
that's all I remember.
And I remember that a girl, they inject, like, oxygen, they just inject air in them. And they end up dying, and I thought that was really weird.
Yeah,
If
I
you
saw that in the
inject air in-
dentist.
yeah. Oh, Corbin Burnson.
Yeah.
Major League was so good.
I'll tell you what,
Strike this fucker out.
Yep. I saw Paranormal Activity 3 and 4 in theaters, and both times I had to deal with kids. And when I went to the third one, they had to throw kids out because I guess they got in underage, and it was the only time I ever saw them actually, stick to that. But part 4, there were must have been drunk teenagers down in front of us, and this one girl was just hysterically laughing for it had to be for 35, 40 seconds straight. This movie was not funny or good or anything. But it was getting worse with the fact that she was doing that. All of a sudden, one of her friends stands up and just yells, "You shut your fucking mouth, you fucking bitch!" And everybody's like, "Woo!" cheering. No, the worst thing I ever saw in theaters, and it made me the most angry. I'm still bitter to this day talking about it. The Last Exorcism Part 2. Now, I didn't have, excitement going into this. I shouldn't go that far, because, when you have the last and 2 in the same title. I had seen only the end of the first one, and it looked good. I haven't seen the whole thing ever, but it looked decent, and I was told that you didn't need to have the backstory necessarily to see this one, even though it was a continuation of the story. But this movie was fucking garbage, and it made me so mad that people in Hollywood can look at this script and be like, "I like this, I'm going to put money behind it." What the fuck are you... Do you just throw your money nilly-willy into the wind? Or is it willy-nilly? Nilly-willy into the wind?
Willy-nilly.
Alright. I don't know what's going on in the movie at all, and it's not because I didn't watch it, it's because, it's just a girl going back and forth and being scared of the wind. It's almost like The Happening Part 2. And then at the end of the movie, what?
The Happening was on the worst horror movies ever, too.
Good.
The one that I watched this morning, it was number 3 or 2.
This should
it
be
was
on
bad.
that list, too. At the very end, they decide to have an exorcism, I think because the movie's called The Last Exorcism, and that's why they decide to have it. And it does not work. It takes 2 minutes to fail miserably, and everybody dies. And the girl of the movie turns into a demon, I guess? Gets into a car and starts driving out of town. All the buildings around her start blowing up. And that's the end of the movie.
It sounds bad.
Oh, I was so mad. I was so mad. I was like, what upsets me about it is that they can put this out there and they know people are going to pay them their hard-earned money to see this absolute trash that they put into theaters on purpose, knowing it was trash. And if they didn't know it was trash, then they shouldn't be in the fucking industry.
That's true.
This stuff should... I understand that, probably 8 to 9% of the movies that come out are actually good. Whereas, 90% of movies that come out are awful. But they shouldn't be that bad. They shouldn't be allowed to be that bad.
No, how did they ever surface if they were that bad?
It's just laziness.
This isn't like the 1950s and 60s with Ed Wood making these shitty movies.
But there's, a certain charm about those. The ones that, Troll 2 and, what is it? What's Ed Wood's famous movie?
Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah, that one, and even The Room. Movies like that, the people who are making them are really behind them, and that's what makes it so funny. They really think they're making something good. I know that when they make movies like this, they know they're not good. So they give minimal fucking effort. Because they don't give a fuck, because they know they're going to make enough back from people who are like, ooh, a horror movie. And they go and they see this, and they're like, oh, well, it was... Except, you get people who don't watch horror movies who see this, and they take somebody and that was scary. Because they're fucking idiots, so you can do simple things, like the door opens and it goes, dun, 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 dun. And you're like, oh, I'm scared. That was my rant.
That's fine. I had a really good movie experience. The
Okay.
first time I went and saw Saw, I was in North Carolina visiting family, and it was opening weekend, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The first one. I thought maybe if they didn't make any more after that, that would have been a really good movie of the 2000s. One of the best, I think.
I thought the same thing when I saw that.
But you can only do that concept so many times, and they just keep doing it and doing it. I know that they love the CGI blood and shit, but it gets old. After 3, I stopped watching.
That whole series.
Same thing with Final Destination. It's the exact same shit in different kooky
You don't
ways
need
that
to watch
you can.
Final Destination.
They're
Just
fucking
what's that?
bad.
1,000 Ways to Die.
There
If you watch
go.
that, that's Final Destination without a half-ass attempt at a bad plot. Just people dying in ridiculous ways. Yeah, Saw at least tried to put a coherent story together. It never really panned out, but they tried. Like, Final Destination had no coherent story. It was, we got to escape death. And a lot of the horror movies that come out don't have even a story at all. The object is to get people killed. And that's why I struggle with what is really horror. What do you think? What are some important things that go into horror?
Okay, let's discuss some movies that are on the fence, teetering. The movie Seven. Is that a horror movie? Or is that like a suspense thriller, drama? Where do you draw the line? Because Kevin Spacey kills some people in some fucked up ways in that movie.
That movie was like a precursor to Saw almost. Same ideas.
Yeah.
It depends on what you want in your horror movie. I know you like a lot of gore, a lot of killing.
A lot of gore, killing, and some titties.
I don't know if you get that in this, but is that your idea of a horror movie?
There should be boobs, yes. There should be some sexuality. There should be language. And there should be killings, yes.
So what do you think of The Exorcist?
I know that there's not a lot.
There's nothing in there except for your mother sucks cocks in hell and all that
there's
stuff.
a little language. But that, coming from a 13, 14-year-old girl, that's
well, then what
pretty vulgar.
What makes that horror since it doesn't have other things?
What makes that so good?
No, horror. What makes it horror?
Demon possession.
So
that's scary.
If you put that in by itself...
I'm Catholic, so to me that movie is kind of scary.
I'm Scientologist.
And when you watch it young, so easy, Tom Cruise.
So if you took, let me ask you this then: if you took the other elements, the sexuality and the language out, but you had somebody putting together an effective movie that was actually scary on the basis of demon possession, would that be good enough to be considered a good horror movie?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
I like a lot of movies that don't have boobs and stuff like that too. So, you know.
Yeah.
I like Darkness Falls. It doesn't have hardly.
Like Darkness Falls.
Oh yeah, I like Darkness Falls. It doesn't have hardly anything. I don't know why I like it. It's not that good of a movie.
You said it's short and sweet.
But there's certain parts of that I like. I don't know why.
Happy Christmas, everybody. Remember to go on to www.facebook.com/horrorcasting. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. And then also, vote for the week's winner on the categories that we do. And most importantly, listen to the podcast. It's also on Podomatic. Goodbye.